I am Father Phil Ritchie, and I'm the Vicar of St Mary's Primrose Hill.
I'm Reverend Matilda Tempest, and I'm the curate of St Mary's Primrose Hill.
Primrose Hill. This is a London of desire, well-to-do but not opulent, possessed of a view to die for, a vista for the ages, London laid bare like a Philip Pullman dream. I mean, this is so nice. For the life of me, I can't work out why doesn't everywhere have one of these? And St Mary's fits somehow, joyful, playful.
Hail Mary,
Hail Mary, Hail Mary, full of grace.
Nerdy.
We were going to have Tell Out My Soul, and I was like, okay, but what if we have like the controversial Mary hymn instead?
Yeah.
Why is it controversial?
There's a verse in it. There's a verse.
There's a controversial, hang on, I'll see if I don't know what number it'll be in the
188.
English. No, this is the English hymnal, not the New English hymnal. Saints Day, St Mary the Virgin. It's ye who own the faith of Jesus, which is mildly controversial inherently because it's a Marian hymn, which at the kind of start of the 20th century was seen as sort of unaccountably popish.
Okay.
But it also has...
But aren't there other hymns with other saints?
Yeah, well, they were
yeah,
all,
still controversial.
All controversial.
Okay.
Particularly Mary.
But
yeah.
this one was particularly controversial because of verse 6, which is, for the sick and for the aged, for our dear ones far away, for the hearts that mourn in secret or who need our prayers today, for the faithful gone before us, may the Holy Virgin pray.
Oh, so lovely.
It's very jolly, but it was very controversial because it was explicitly asking for the intercession of Mary.
I get it.
To which the editor, when someone challenged him about it, said, well, what should we say? May the Holy Virgin not pray? That would be daft.
So, why have you been doing homework?
Well, I think we've been doing homework. The reason we've been doing homework is that this church comes with a deal of tradition, and although it might not look like the most amazing church in London, in terms,
excuse me.
Well, I know, no, but it's particularly important because of Percy Dearmer, who was the third vicar. Who was the third vicar, who started his own kind of small revolution in how we do church, which influenced the whole of the Anglican Communion and became kind of internationally important.
He wrote this book, which is the Parson's Handbook. This is the 12th edition, which kind of gives you a hint as to how popular it was back in the day. It sort of laid out a scheme for how he thought we should be doing church that was, so at the time, which is, we're talking sort of end of the 19th, start of the 20th century, there was both a huge battle kind of like within the church of this sort of like more high church, more ritualist, more kind of Anglo-Catholic, as we'd call it today, bent, and a more evangelical kind of like, focus on the word, keep it nice and simple, and, this historic antagonism towards Rome and to like Roman Catholic tradition. The Parson's Handbook and Percy Dearmer and the style of worship that kind of the tradition that's been handed down at St Mary's is particularly interesting because there's another battle at the same time within this more high church end between people who think that what we should be doing is matching what contemporary Roman Catholic practice was. So we should just be following what the church in Rome is doing. And people who are attracted to this ritual, attracted to this tradition, but want to find a kind of more distinctively historic and English way of doing things. So they a lot of that is they look to the medieval English church pre-Reformation and say, what was happening in, particularly in Salisbury, the Sarum Rite, is the kind of way they did church at Salisbury Cathedral, which became very popular across England.
So when does the Sarum Rite date from?
It develops in the High Middle Ages, pre-Reformation. So actually pre-Reformation, so this is one of my areas of particular nerdery. Feel free to edit it out if it's dull. But before the Reformation, there's actually not very much uniformity in the Roman Catholic Church. There are different like kind of uses, different rites. There's the Gallican rite, there's the Sarum rite, and different kind of like national, local Roman Catholic churches. They're all part of the Roman Catholic Church, but they're kind of doing a bit their own thing. And then that gets sort of standardized in the sort of Counter-Reformation and kind of over time, you know, until kind of like Vatican II, and they're like, got to do church this way.
So, but in a practical level, what does that mean? What was happening in the Sarum rite that was different from...
We don't entirely know.
Okay.
Part of like modern, the kind of like part of this is people trying to reconstruct what they think, like Victorian medievalism, trying to reconstruct what they think medieval people were doing.
Think part of the problem as well is that now some people would say that the Roman ritualists won the day in the end, and that Percy's project became a kind of historical exercise which didn't fully get to grips with exactly what the Sarum rite was, or exactly theologically the way forward was. So some people would say that my where I was in Oxford, the college principal used to refer to Uncle Percy, as in a kind of slightly quaint way. Uncle Percy used to do this, but we now know that this is the way to do it. So there's a whole load of arguments about, you know, how we ought to be doing stuff.
Well, let's forget about Sarum and talk about Uncle Percy. What did he say? What was he recommending? And does it still
Well, Uncle Percy, importantly, was a Christian socialist. So socialism was important to him, social justice, caring for the poor and those in need. He came from a fairly privileged...
Relatively. His mother was like a school teacher and his father was an artist.
Well, he went to Oxford.
He did go to Oxford, yeah. Christian socialism was always quite a middle-class venture. It tended to be a bit more than actual kind of working Christians.
But you had all the William Morris stuff as well.
Yeah.
And all the arts and crafts stuff.
So I think one of the really key things about Percy Dearmer is that for him, social action and social principles and having like good worship and glorifying God, these were intimately related. In almost crossness work with the idea that only rich people should be able to worship God beautifully. In St Mary's, it's quite a well-heeled area, but it has never been a particularly wealthy church. The church building was funded mostly kind of by parishioners, people in the local area. All of the kind of beautiful things in the church were sort of like tended to be fundraised from the congregation. We had a couple of big patrons. There was the first vicar, married an heiress, always a good idea if you're trying to fund a church.
Almost any circumstance.
So she gave a lot of money to the church kind of initially. You know, they were known for doing services for like domestic servants to make sure who needed to be at home on a Sunday morning preparing the roast dinner. So they made sure there were kind of evening services.
So you don't have to. I took a look at the Parson's Handbook myself. That irate Dearmer was certainly cross about something. One has a strong sense throughout that you're entering an argument in the middle, and Dearmer is taking a somewhat exasperatedly middle ground between two positions he does not deign to fully articulate. It probably made more sense at the time. So Percy Dearmer was part of your training, Uncle Percy, but was he part of your training? Is he still there?
Honestly, not really. You still get a few people who are kind of quite into, I think particularly prayer book Catholicism. So he wants this ritual and this tradition, but it's really rooted in not just the medieval English Church, but like, you know, what's the English Church done since? So he is.
So the Book of Common Prayer.
He's an absolute stickler for the Book of Common Prayer.
This is sinking in a bit.
That tradition is really trying to draw on the richness of that like prayer book, that English kind of post-Reformation tradition, and bring it into harmony with like kind of the beauty of historic ritual. And I think that's something that still appeals to a lot of people today. I think there is a bit of a prayer book revival going on at the moment. I think there are people who are drawn to church. I think people particularly around my age, sort of like, you know, in their 20s, who are drawn to the kind of historic traditions, who want a sense of continuity with history.
It feels like a non-dumbed down version of the liturgy.
And I think the problem for a lot of the modern church now is this, on the one hand, how can we access this truth, this authenticity, this seriousness about taking faith seriously, alongside how can we avoid being like a National Trust property that kind of, is like doing everything beautifully and doing everything in the original kind of way.
Yeah.
And how do we join those two things together, or can you join those two things together? And people have different answers to that. Yeah. It's funny about this icon because I put it in, and I've only been here a year and a half. And I probably should have got a faculty or something, or some permission to put it in. I just put it up.
It's movable, so...
but it's movable, so I can't be arrested.
What does that mean? Hang on,
Well,
what's a faculty? What does that even mean?
Means you can't just put things up in a church and say, I've just put this up.
So most churches are listed buildings. Rather than having to go through the kind of listed build process, the Church of England has its own process, which is the faculty process, which means that the Church of England can kind of deal with things sort of internally.
Okay, they're a trusted partner with...
Yeah,
So kind of
it is very
changes to the
stringent.
rules. Yes.
It is very stringent and has lots of rules. We got in trouble a few years ago because you see our lovely ceiling that is beautifully pink and blue.
Yeah.
We thought it would be lovely if our chairs matched and were bright pink and blue, and we thought it would be great fun. The faculty team did not agree, and we had a bit of a kerfuffle.
And it was in all the papers. It was shocking news.
Okay, it's something someone will comment on.
Yeah, we are going to get them back. We're going to get them back.
Phil, don't say that.
No.
You're being videoed.
It's fine. We got the battle for pink chairs is right. But this icon here, I borrowed this from Richard Pearse, who was the kind of founder of an organisation called the Socialism of Mary, and it's particularly important to me because it's a Black Madonna, I suppose. So this is saying when we think about Mary and the Christ Child, this is a universal figure, and so it's saying that Mary is a person for everyone. This is St Mary's Church, and Mary is a person for everyone. This church has always been one that's supported women's ministry and women's ordination, and Percy Dearmer himself supported women.
Which is quite impressive for sort of, the
such
Edwardian
a long time
area.
ago.
After he left St Mary's, he worked with Maud Royden, who was I can't remember whether she was actually a suffragette, but who was a sort of kind of women's rights, who felt called to ministry, but was not able to preach because she was a woman. And she kind of preached a few times in Reformed churches to kind of great scandal. And then she and Percy Dearmer went off and formed kind of a church that met in the evenings, so that with the intent of not drawing people away from their regular Sunday morning worship, basically to allow her to preach. We were looking through some of the old parish magazines from 1925, so 100 years ago, and I found an article that was quite pleasing, which said, we, the PCC, have approved that women can be sidesmen, so they can kind of, volunteer in more roles in the church. And having done this, well, of course they're going to have the same duties and responsibilities and respect of the office as men. This was passed unanimously.
I want to tell you about the Dante bit on the Reredos.
Yeah, let's go and have a look at the Reredos. I mean, I assume you're completely happy with the Reredos and the altar here.
Well, although it's been chopped about, hasn't it? It's been chopped about.
It used to have there used to be a carving. So it used to be higher up, like when the church was built, but that meant that a lot of the light was blocked out. So, and
but
again,
it was a great bodily Reredos, full height, beautiful thing. And Percy just said, it'll box the light out, so we'll just chop it about a bit.
Yeah.
You can see the stamp of Percy Dearmer on the building. He kind of moved the Reredos down to let more light in. But he's the one who whitewashed the building. So most churches of this era you see still have that original red brick look, but ours was whitewashed.
During Lent, we have this closed. This is another Percy thing, the Lenten array. At St Mary's, if you come here in Lent, everything will be covered in kind of this oatmeal-y covered sackcloth. And there'll be a big hanging over the cross there. There'll be hanging, everything will be covered up. Everything will be covered up. And this will be like this for the whole of Lent. And then at the Easter Vigil, the biggest service of the church this year, these will be thrown open.
So this is on Easter Sunday?
Yeah, the Easter
the
Vigil.
resurrection.
It's on very early on Sunday morning.
Who are the people on either side? I'm just thinking about it, but it's not completely obvious.
Matilda
John the
is now gonna tell you
Baptist.
who everyone is.
John the Baptist, you can recognise him. I don't know if you can see the texture from where you are, but he's wearing a hairy shirt.
Yes, now, and of course, as soon as you see it, you know who it is.
Yeah, and then that's Isaiah.
And then this thing about the Dante quote was which
Yes.
Percy put on the year before he left. So kind of slightly, he seemed to kind of just, I fancy doing this, so I'll do this. And it says, his will, in his will is our peace.
So these words here.
Those words at the bottom there, and at the bottom there, and his will is our peace. And it's actually in Italian, not in Latin, because it's Dante. And it refers to a woman in the Paradiso who has got is in a kind of lower sphere of heaven, so not such a good place. Yeah. What was her name? Her name was Picarda Donati. They say to her, well, are you a bit unhappy with, you haven't got a very good view, have you, here? And she says, no, in his will is my peace. And it's a lovely thing because there's a sense of, I suppose now we're all so terrified of hierarchy or things being in order, but there was definitely in Dante a sense of order and hierarchy.
Yes.
And but that when we're in heaven, everything is aligned with the will of the Father. Everything is aligned with God.
Yes.
And so our desires are fulfilled because we're in the presence of God, and it doesn't matter where we are.
Apologies, this is just coming into my mind. It could also be read as I know my place.
Yes, I know, exactly, and that's interesting. But I kind of strongly disagree with that.
Quite
partly
right,
because, I think it's interesting, the whole anxiety that we have. We've become very binary about hierarchy, and we sort of said hierarchy is bad and everyone should be equal. But then we struggle to understand what we mean by that. And actually, part of being human and part of our struggle with being human is our struggles with where we are. And so hierarchy never fully disappears this side of the grave. And in Dante, it appears there are levels within heaven. But her answer, I think, is saying, if I'm aligned with the will of God, if I'm aligned with what God wants, then my desires are fulfilled. Then I'm in a good place.
Music's always been very important at St Mary's. Again, it's another one of Uncle Percy's things as well. Is he was the editor of the English hymnal, which came out in 1906 while he was vicar here. It was, I think, quite revolutionary. Actually, it was. The editorial board really wanted to bring together the very best of English hymnody. So they got rid of a lot of Victorian sentimentalism. They said, we don't need that anymore. And they brought in a lot of folk tunes, kind of building on the work of Cecil Sharp, who Cecil Sharp House is just around the corner. And they get Ralph Vaughan Williams in to do a lot of the music.
Which is amazing.
They have this like kind of really great composer, kind of a celebrity, to come and do a book of hymns. And one of the things I really love about it, which is very handy when you're planning services, is a lot of the hymns are sorted by purpose rather than just alphabetically. Yeah. So you have your sections for, and I'll show you. Yeah. You have your sections for like the Christian year, and you've got Epiphany, you've got Lent, you've got Eastertide. You've got a bunch of, you've got dedication festival, a bunch of saints.
I think another key thing about this hymn book was they used the greatest of English poetry. So there's John Donne, William Wordsworth, Blake. All these people's words are included in the hymns. And there's also the music chosen. Rayful Williams chooses a lot of English folk tunes, which are sort of traditional English folk tunes. So it's it's kind of a beautiful project, and he did such a beautiful thing. Uncle
Percy was clearly a big wheel.
Yeah.
If he's been given big jobs, but isn't being made a bishop, isn't being given a huge church.
And when he left here, interestingly, he didn't get another job. His wife was
killed in Serbia in World War I. She volunteered to sign up as a nurse. And died of enteric fever while she was in Serbia. So Percy's wife died, and then the church didn't have another job for him, because even though he was very influential, he was also quite controversial.
He sounds it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like this Christ, because the other thing about Percy is he never wanted a crucifix in any of his churches, which is slightly weird, Uncle Percy thing.
That's unusual, yeah.
But even this crucifix was put on later. You see Christ's arms are raised kind of a little bit off the cross. And the main cross that Percy did put in, which we should have a look at, the rood screen here, has got Christ the King, Christ with his crown on.
He's not on Calvary at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things where it's sometimes difficult with Percy, because I can see value in all these different models, and this is a beautiful thing. The beloved disciple here looks a bit like Percy. It's like Percy.
It has his hairstyle and
hair.
his chin.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
What else do we need to see? The sacristy, the brewery.
We need to.
So let's go to Christie Brewery.
But we'll do that next week. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Come back next week.